Welcome to the Module 20 lecture video that covers topic 1.1 for AP Environmental Science, Introduction to Ecosystems. Today we will be looking at the biotic and abiotic interactions between organisms in an ecosystem. And here is your essential knowledge for the topic. A couple of terms to be familiar with before we get going. Community ecology is the study of interactions among species. A symbiotic relationship describes the relationship between two species that live in close proximity. And we will be looking at competition, predation, parasitism, and herbivory. Starting with competition. Competition can occur within or between species. If there is competition between different species, it is interspecific. If it is between the members of the same species, it is intraspecific. And organisms compete for a number of different things, but usually we're talking about food and other resources like shelter. The competitive exclusion principle tells us that two species competing for the same resource cannot coexist, which you can see here between two species of paramecium. When they are both living together, one species prevails and the other one dies off. In order to allow species to use the same resources, they have to go through resource partitioning. This could be based on time or space, or maybe they adapt to eat something totally different, like with the birds here. So one species ends up adapting to eat the smaller seed size so that there's no overlap. Sometimes it's just as simple as, they're competing for the same resource, but one is nocturnal and the other species is diurnal. But either way, generally some sort of adaptation will have to take place so that there is no competition for the same resource at the same time. Predation happens when one species eats another. I know we're all familiar with that, but keep in mind that many prey have been able to adapt and develop defenses to predator attacks. Parasitism happens when one organism lives in or on another organism. If it is a parasite that causes a disease, it's called a pathogen. So example here would be a virus, bacteria, fungi, I should say protist, or animal. Herbivory is when an animal consumes a producer. The only time this is an issue is when we have a huge herbivore population. So maybe if we have like some overgrazing, that's going to be a bad time for the producers. And then later on the herbivores also, because there's not going to be as much food for them to eat. There are some neutral or positive interactions that occur between species, and one of them is mutualism, where both species benefit from the interaction, and it will increase the survival or success of reproduction for one or both species. A neutral interaction would be commensalism. One species will benefit, and there is no effect on the other species at all. So here is a chart that sums up the interactions. The minus, of course, is a negative thing, plus is positive, and the 0 means no effect at all. Please know a couple of examples of each of these types of interactions, and you'll be good to go. The last thing, I know this is kind of random, is that some species in a community are called keystone species that will have large effects on the community if something happens to them. These organisms will not be in high abundance in the community, but their role is of utmost importance. They will provide some sort of essential service for the ecosystem, maybe as a predator, a food source, or some other mutualistic interaction. A couple of examples of keystone species are, of course, beavers that like to build dams and sea stars. Some of them will also be ecosystems engineers that create or maintain a habitat for other species, like with beavers. So, also, same thing here. Make sure you know what they are and lots of other examples. There are tons more than just beavers and sea stars. Those are just my favorite. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in class soon.